Welcome back to America Newscape. I'm Joyce Rockwood. Do you believe in the healing power of storytelling and how you have the ability to change the narrative of your life? Well, Hilary Russo does, and with really good reason. And today we're going to get to hear why. What do you get when you take health, healing, havening, and humor, a lot more than just alliteration, and you marry them with a woman who has spent more than 25 years in media as an award-winning television journalist, a producer and multimedia host, a college professor at a prestigious university, is a certified integrative nutrition health coach, certified havening techniques practitioner, and the host of the HIListically Speaking podcast. There's only one answer. Today, you get to hear from our new guest and very dear friend, Hilary Russo. Welcome, Hilary.
Thank you, Joyce. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's almost surreal, isn't it?
It is. I mean, you and I talk constantly, if not multiple times a week, and then we're thrown into these different media portals and elements, and it's just we'll see what happens. Because it's two girlfriends who just have a wealth of experience in what we're both doing, but we seem to always align in some way, right?
It's so beautiful. I will talk about how we got to know how we met initially a little bit later on, but I just want to start out by saying I think we have so many similarities, not only in the way we take care of ourselves, but also the way we nurture and support and coach our clients. And I've always said that I feel like if we look back at our childhood, we can see how we were inspired or supported in connecting to what has become our true calling. And so I was wondering if, you look back on your life, you could see who played a role in supporting you with where you are today.
Well, without question, it is my amazing parents. My mother and my father have always been extremely supportive of I wouldn't say every choice I made, but definitely the choices that I made as far as my career and even the changes in my career, the trajectory of things. And also my brother who is 12 years older than me. So kind of like having that parental role in a way, but also the brotherhood role has kind of been, rather quite influential in supporting me in pursuing my dreams. So I've got a pretty good trifecta there of people in my nucleus that have been behind me. That's just how we roll.
Yeah. And your dad was a lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My dad was a criminal defense attorney in New York. And prior to that, he was an assistant DA in New York City under the prestigious Frank Hogan, which, his work as a lawyer kind of groomed me in a lot of ways to be very disciplined, but also to be open-minded. My dad he's been gone now, almost 18 years. And I think about it, he's still with me every day, but I learned so much about just being open-minded and listening and also, work in the room in a way as a trial attorney, especially in New York and the criminal courts. I was fascinated by the cases that my father had, but he was a warm and gentle giant. And there's just so much that I could say about him. I don't know if you have enough time in the show, but he's still with me every day. And my mom's the same way. My mom has been the cheerleader for my brother and I with everything we do. My brother's also an artist, has been in the creative arts as long as he's older than me, but I've never known him not to be a creator. And, it wasn't needing to be in the traditional 9-to-5 kind of jobs that my parents were like, you got to do this, make a living. I did the traditional going to college, getting my master's. But then after that, it was really finding my own way. And my parents had never been any any less supportive of both of our journeys, really, which were quite different, how David and I went on our paths. But it came back to pursuing our love and our dreams and our passions.
And your mom's also very creative. Your mom's what, 80
Yes.
now?
My
She's
mom
like
turns
getting a college
80.
degree. She's
Oh,
unstoppable.
I love that you brought that up. So my mom turns 80 in August, and she actually finished her college degree last year. Gosh, thankfully before COVID, because we were able to witness her walking in this huge ceremony at in a huge auditorium. And 78 at the time years old, walking with all of these students who are in their 20s, majority wise, graduating with honors, and woo woo, like we were just like having hollering for her, like we were the parents, my brother and I, and her husband, and it was just such an amazing experience to see her pursue and finish something she started 60 years prior, put it on the back burner because she's such a nurturer, taking care of family, taking care of my dad who was sick when I was younger, but I'm sure we'll touch on that, and taking care of just family in general and putting that first, and finally giving herself a chance to finish something she started. She's an absolute inspiration. Yeah.
She really is a living example of
Yeah.
the whole concept of it's never too late to pursue your dream,
Totally.
right?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
is a dream catcher. And my mom has done a number of different things as while I was growing up, but she always had a passion for the arts. And we were always around it, going to Broadway shows, going to the museums. My mom is a published poet. She has a beautiful voice, and coming from my mom's side of the family, there are a lot of professional singers. So all of that kind of, it's in the DNA basically. And the same thing with the visual arts as well, from where my brother draws well. I'm a stick figure kind of girl, but it runs in the family. I see it with my nieces. They have the most beautiful artistic ability. So it's just, we were really surrounded by balance. Holistic balance is so important, and it's why we were able to pursue what we love and thrive, even through difficult times. Like with my father's health,
Right.
which was a big. It held a lot of weight on my shoulders as a child, definitely.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that shortly.
Mhm.
I want you to tell me, because I'm so excited about what's going on with you right now. I've known you for, I think, 25 years, which is crazy. I would love for
Yeah.
you to share with the audience right now what you are most excited about.
I am very excited about the podcast, Holistically Speaking. It has been a labor of love for over a year. And as someone who has been working in health and wellness as a professional journalist, health journalist, and also as a practitioner of emotional well-being and mental health, I knew that I wanted to hold a space for something really powerful. I am in the room with clients right now, virtually, and also my students, and I try to I want to instill that really beautiful thing of your story doesn't define you. And when we are going through something, we can change the narrative. And I did that myself. And I found that, holistically speaking, for me, being a place that it holds space for people to go through the transformation or discover that the transformation can go from trauma to triumph. So I have guests of varied expertise, one being you coming up on our next episode, and sharing your own personal stories and how you were able to change the narrative and go from trauma to triumph, and do so through health, healing, and humor. Because we've got to see the humor on the other side of things. It's difficult when we're going through it, but once we are through it, it is like, it's something opens up and we realize, wow, we really had to go through that. And I went through it. I've been through a series of traumas in my life. And I realize that really is what I wanted this to be. So I'm not just sharing it with my clients, and I'm not just in the room with my students or just one-on-one with a friend or a family member. I wanted to create this space for mental health to be shared on a much larger level, so that people know that they're not alone and there's a light on the other side.
Yeah, I am such a huge fan. First of all, I just want to say I'm blown
Thank you.
away by your podcast. From the very first second, I was hooked. And I just listened to a recent episode with Chris Poirier Kim, who really
Mm,
exemplifies. I mean, his story, I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't heard it yet, but you should go and listen to it. His story of going from, he was adopted and what it was like for
mm,
him to reconnect with his biological mom and what ensued after that. His story is so
mm.
powerful. And he was on the TV show. What was the name of it? The
American
Warriors, the
Ninja
Ninja Warriors.
Warriors. We actually met
Yeah.
on Daily Burn because we're both on the
Yeah.
Daily Burn live streaming fitness show. And that's what the beautiful thing is about Holistically Speaking is that all of my guests are from different walks of life or different parts of my life, many of which I've known, but still we're creating new relationships all the time. So CPK or Chris, I
Mhm.
met on Daily Burn because he's one of our trainers, but he is a phenomenal fitness ninja, as he calls himself. And he also just shared his story. Like that episode really embodied the bullying, the adoption, the
Mm.
advocacy, the activism, and what it means to go from traumas to triumph and build the life that you want to live. But you got to go through the stuff. And we never
Yeah.
stop. We're always a work in progress, right? And he's just one episode, you know?
Yeah, he's just one episode. I feel like every luminary you've invited on so far has been spectacular, has been moving, motivating. They're people that I certainly didn't know, and they're well revered and well accomplished in their field. So it's an exciting opportunity for me to be exposed to more people that can inspire my life and also the way I might guide my own clients. So thank you so much for really illuminating these incredible experts.
I
And
feel like I'm the one that's blessed, really, you know, holding space for people to share their stories, you know.
And these are all people that you just know from your own experience, your own professional exposure to different people in different scenarios, right? The first guest you had was
Mhm.
someone you met at a dinner party.
Chris Shembra, yeah, the gratitude
Yeah.
guru. I actually was just on a dinner with him last night or Thursday night. I was on a dinner with him, and there were 130 people on the virtual dinner because it was his 500th episode, and
Oh,
or dinner
wow.
rather. Episode. I'm coming from like being a TV person, and it was his 500th dinner. And it was unbelievable. All of these people from all over the world, and we're meeting and sharing the space. And it's all about gratitude and human connection, the sauce per se. So I met
Mhm.
Chris on his first dinner through somebody else I knew who was bringing people together, and I've been hooked, and I've met a number of people through it that have become good friends, and or worked together with them in some way or helped each other out. But it's really just holding space for human connection, and especially right now in this time when we are missing the element of touch, we are missing a
Mhm.
kind of connection. But social distancing, as I've said it countless times, does not mean social disconnecting. And that
Mm.
is what Chris is doing. And he was my first guest on the podcast. However, he wasn't the first one I recorded because I've been recording them for a while, but I'm like, this has got to be the first one that I launch because it just says so much about the heart and spirit of what I want to do with Holistically Speaking. And his story, going through depression and suicide and living the life as a Broadway producer and realizing there was something missing, and then realizing it from his journeys in Italy that like coming together and having dinner is so much a part of the secret sauce of gratitude and human connection. It's empowering. Yeah, 747
Yeah.
Club. That's the name of this. Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
his backstory with suicide and depression, I think of the theme that you work a lot with in your podcast, which is sometimes about moving past the trauma, right? So do you want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your personal experience with that,
Sure.
with trauma?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think we all go through a series of things in our lives, whether they are considered traumas, because there has to be a certain amount of, for something to be a trauma, it has to have an event happening. There needs to be a feeling of inescapability and meaning to it and a landscape around it, really. And some things might just be very upsetting, but in technical terms, for something to be very traumatic, it really has to resonate with us and cause some serious upset. And I've been through a series of those in my life as far as, my father's health, poor health rather, being a severe diabetic, insulin dependent, not taking care of himself for a number of years, amputee, witnessing that as a child, really sitting in a hospital waiting room as a kid doing my homework from the age of 7, waiting for my dad to come out, not knowing what's really going on, and witnessing that, and then constantly seeing my dad kind of battle his health. But my dad always said, disability does not mean inability. He was one of the smartest men I knew. Smartest men, Ivy League college trained, educated, and just the kindest, most loving person. So he took even his traumas and turned them into triumphs in a way with his mastering what he did. And he was actually a minor league baseball player, and couldn't go that route because of his illness. So that affected me deeply from the age of 7. And then I also dealt with bullying in my own life, at a young age, growing up in Westchester County, New York. There was a large amount of bullying around me, which a lot of kids are witness to now. And there was no internet. So it's face to face. And I don't know what's better, neither really, but to be witness to that as a child and really embody that, it can really make you feel small, and you become your own inner bully. And that's what we need to fight, is being our own champion, not our inner bully. And then later in life, the loss of my father, going through major surgery, TMJ, I have temporomandibular joint disorder, and I went through a major traumatic surgery, hours long, lots of recovery. And that could be extremely traumatic. You think, oh, the surgery was a success. You got to think about the mental that goes behind it, because the amygdala, she loves to go into threat mode. We call her Amy, and you got to nurture her. So that was pretty traumatic in my life. And then I would say going on in relationship wise, the loss of relationships, divorce, can be very traumatic. It's also considered a death, a loss. And if we don't really learn how to deal with that and let go and create the space for something new, especially if you've been hurt, especially if there was, things that happened within the relationship that were not, that lacked integrity. It could be very painful. And you suddenly start asking you questions. Is it me? Is it me? Well, what is you is doing the work to go within and go through and make yourself better. Right. So that is where I realized from my traumas, I can either live in it and live in the story, or I can change the narrative and go on the other side. And that's what caused me to go further and become a holistic health coach to take care of my personal health, and also a certified havening techniques practitioner, which alters your thoughts, moods, and behavior. It's a psychosensory modality. And how can I use these tools to help others in their healing like it helped me?
So beautiful. I feel like we have so many similarities in our life. We've both been through divorce. We both have parents who've tremendously influenced us from the business side to the art side. And I feel like we both live our lives in a deep state of gratitude.
Every day.
And
every day.
And I'm grateful for the fact that your brother is an incredibly accomplished, multidimensional artist, David Anson Russo. And I'm really grateful that he had an agent, and still has an agent, named David Goldman, who is the reason why you and I met so many years ago, because I used to work for David Goldman. And we're both still great friends with him and his wife, Jamie, who's amazing jewels, right? We love. And I just think it's so interesting to see how your life can unfold. And if anyone ever told us back then that we'd be sitting here today connecting on this incredible platform and sharing and supporting others in this area of work of health and healing, I think we would have batted our eyes and said, what are you, crazy?
Girl, you were like way ahead of me on that thing. Definitely. I mean, we met, but I remember you being in my living room at my mom's house, but we didn't really connect until I moved to New York, connect, like sisterly connect. And you've been kind of my go-to, and I will say, and I'll say it right here, you've been an inspiration and a guide for me in my own holistic journey, before I even knew that's what I was going to do. So thank you for holding space for me and being there when I've had a gajillion questions, but you've guided me as a friend and a sister, and just a wealth of knowledge. And, I still come to you. So people need to know that. That's the best thing about being in this line of work, not the journalist side as well, but being in holistic health and being a practitioner. The best ones are those who continue to seek guidance and help. I don't want to go to a doctor that doesn't want to see a doctor. I don't want to go to a therapist that's not going to therapy themselves. I would like to know that the people coming and needing me to be their guide by their side are knowledgeable and know that I too am still pursuing the help that I need, whether it's getting my physical body where it needs to be, my mindfulness. I practice havening. I mean, I still have somebody who I haven with because I need to practice my skill.
Yeah,
it's
so
when we
see you touching your face, we'll know why.
I know, right? And my hands are always clean. My hands are always clean.
Your shoulders.
Yes. I do it all the time. I do it multiple times a day because it really changes your thoughts, moods, and behavior. It creates the delta waves in the brain. It slows things down. It has a rapid response. It can be shared with your practitioner without you having to share the upset that you might be having. That's the best part. You don't have to actually share if you're not comfortable with whatever it is you're battling. I, as a practitioner, can guide you through the process without you even having to share what it is. But 99% of the time, quite frankly, because it's built on trust, people do share with me. And I take that very seriously when they open up their emotional health and their desire for well-being with me, because it's very intimate and it means something to me to connect with them on that level.
I feel like it would be really helpful to have you back in the future to do an entire episode just on the science behind havening and the benefits so that people listening could learn more about it. If you're up for that.
I would love to do that. Absolutely.
Well,
I love
Hilary,
talking about it. I get very jazzed.
Yeah. And there's so much science behind that. I know of scientific research done with babies that were like in ICU, and there was science behind those that were touched that had more rapid healing than those that were not. So that's the tip of the iceberg of that research, but it's connected to the science and the neurological response of touch.
It is. It's neuroscience compared to energy healing. And we have havening practitioners who are midwives, nurses, ICU. The importance of touch is so important. I mean, it's so valuable that it has to be part of what heals, because that's what changes the brain. And we need to give more attention to it. That's right.
Well, it's been a pleasure to hold space for you all these years, and you have had rocket fuel added to your process, and I feel you're right alongside me. And you really do have an incredible way of holding space for others. And I would say, with your podcast, your Holistically Speaking podcast, you're creating a really empowering and safe place for your guests and their stories to make a difference in the lives of others. And I really can't think of a more noble way to live your life. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I just wanted to open up the gate here for you to have, any parting thoughts, anything else you wanted to share.
I feel like something very important that I do like to share is that when people are down, when people feel like they can't change the narrative, the most important thing you need to remember is that the power of that lies within. And we absolutely, each and every one of us, are the only ones in our own lives that have the power to do that. And any situation where you might be feeling that you need that support, there are people out there that will support you and have the knowledge and the capability to do so. Not just me, not just you, depending on who it is and what you seek. Seek the help, because that's going to allow you to live your empowering life and to go from trauma to triumph, to live powerfully and change the narrative and really write your own story. And that's really what it's all about. because we want to live happy and healthy. It's our right.
And with a little bit of humor.
Yes, loads of humor and lots of alliteration.
Thank you so much. Yes, we're both a fan of
Yeah.
that. Thank you so much, Hilary. It has been an absolute dream come true, as surreal as it is. This has been Joyce Rockwood with Hilary Russo talking about how to transform your trauma to triumph and be a happier human. Additional links and information on Hilary and how to get in touch with her can be found in our Read More section right below this video. You can connect further with Hilary by subscribing, rating, and reviewing her amazing Transformational Holistically Speaking podcast on iTunes and all podcast platforms. And please consider subscribing to this channel. See you next time.